technology has come, look at how effective it can be in a movie, but most importantly, look at what's happened to the generation. Well, forget about that. How about adults? I mean, everybody's on Facebook and everybody's using selfies, so that we can do 3D mock-ups from that to text messaging to filming yourself and documenting your own. This is Dave Green, the director. If you didn't like the movie, blame him.
He can also weigh in on the 3D also.
Yeah,
when
we were
you're
just
done.
talking about having
the movie in 3D.
no.
No.
Echo,
The 3D printing
the
technology
that
to
we,
create the mock-ups of Echo.
Oh yeah.
because we had that. We also had a real robot, and we also did a lot of CG. I mean, he is a lot CG.
But
So.
now, how beneficial is it when you have now you have the technology, you can do these mock-ups and actually put something physical in the hands of the young actors and give them something to work off of?
Hugely beneficial. Yeah. The tricky thing is when they manufactured that little guy, we went to Legacy Effects, who they are the former Stan Winston Studios, and they're incredible. They're doing they do Iron Man, they do Jurassic Park, they're amazing. And they said, oh, it's really the challenge of Echo, because you want him to be this big instead of this big. The challenge is how do we pack all those robotics into something that's that tiny. So when he showed up on set, because we had such a quick schedule, he showed up on set a couple weeks into shooting, and we said, great, he can do all these things, but there were certain kind of like emotions, like we want him to breathe, and we wanted him to do many different things at once that we could really only do in CG. But I have to say it was really just our actors who made it come to life, because there were certain times where I'd be like, okay, Reese, it's Echo. And he would have to, his eyes would have to light up, and he would have to smile, and like he's holding an alien. And that's really all him. And I wish I could say that we gave him something that was, but that comes from the kids entirely.
Dave and Andrew, can you talk about pitching it? I can only imagine how you pitched this. Talk about that process.
Well, yeah, it was the three of us. Do you guys want to dive in?
Yeah, well, just how we pitched the entire thing. My recollection is that we sat down and we started talking. I would talk about like my feelings about aliens growing up and how I felt about it. And we would talk about the sort of movies we loved and what we missed, and then really the story came about pretty naturally, and I would just pitch them the story, and then Dave would talk about how we would visualize it in this medium and how it's going to be different and new and modern.
And I stole all the best jokes from his pitch. I stole them and got to say them in the middle of the pitch. I did.
I don't remember. I've forgiven him.
Oh, okay. And then we had this little. We shot a little 1-minute video that was, clip. We had friends of friends kids who were in this little clip, and it was kind of a combination of, it was the first act of the movie basically truncated into a little 1-minute clip, and they're saying, our phones are messed up, let's go check it out. What do you think it leads to? I don't know. It's very mysterious. And they find the cylinder that Echo is kept inside.
Yeah, it's the short film that was done. So I was begging these guys to go out and shoot me something that we could show the studio what we wanted to do in tonality. And so when we created this thing, we thought, how are we going to visualize this in short form? Because the truth of the matter is you can make a great movie, but how are you going to sell it? So we tried to figure out how we were going to sell this thing. And so we shot this short, and these guys went out and made a great short, which is actually very similar to the first teaser trailer that was out about the kids finding the cylinder. It's actually almost shot for shot, very similar. So it's really kind of an incredible story, because we kind of did a home video movie before we started. So we then it just evolved from there, and we were run and gun. I mean, we had the idea in I think I sat down with you guys in when was it? April, and we were shooting in August. So.
Dave, can I ask you about all I can tell you is the point of view perspective of shooting those, from those games.
Mm-hmm.
How much trouble does that create as a storyteller in knowing that you can't make these kind of leaps? You have to follow that format.
Yeah.
Did it make it harder?
Yeah, honestly, you've got all these tools as a filmmaker, that when you approach a scene, you've got, okay, I've got lighting, I've got camera work, I've got blocking, I've got music, I've got editing, I've got set design, and all this stuff, and some of those tools you have as a filmmaker, you're kind of tying one arm behind your back, and it's challenging you to kind of fence with the other hand, and but I think the advantage was it really challenged us to tell the story from the kid's point of view and create a kind of intimacy with those characters that you really wouldn't have otherwise. And I think the format of the movie makes you feel like, wow, I really just had an experience with those kids, and it doesn't feel like necessarily like a
Well, it's not. It doesn't feel like any. Yeah, it doesn't. Well, it definitely doesn't feel like a TV show, and it doesn't feel like manipulated. Because the truth is, it's like that you're seeing on camera what's happening. That's it. That is it. We can't manipulate performances. I mean, that's what's kind of. I don't know what you guys thought about the movie, but I think the kids are pretty rad in this film. And the truth is, like, that's raw. That's raw right there. I mean, we're not cutting away from them because we can't. It's all in camera, so it's here to here, back to here, all live, one shot, like a play. So I think the kids deserve a lot more credit.
Yeah.
If they're not getting the credit, they deserve a ton of it because it's about as raw, and for that age to perform at that level, to me, is just.
Yeah, and I would say one of the things is like my favorite movies are always shot with perspective in mind. Whether it's the kids in Jurassic Park getting attacked in that T-Rex scene, the camera's inside the car. You're rarely cutting to an over the shoulder of a T-Rex because you're telling the story from the audience's point of view, and so what it really let us do was make the audience feel like they were in the shoes of those characters, hopefully, and yeah.
Andrew, in real life, those kids would have been in danger messing with the military, especially secret operations that the military has that actually deals with ETs. And what raised my awareness is one line that you guys wrote where the guy said this thing wants to assemble its spaceship and go back to where it came from. That's not going to happen. So when those kids violated that, they actually violated a top secret military mandate. So did you consider that when you made this movie? Because I'm thinking other children will think they can go out and mess with something top military. And
Right. Well, listen, it depends on what kind of good time you want to have. You tell me. When you're 12 years old, let me ask you a question. When you're 12 years old and the sun's coming down, 8 o'clock at night, your mom's telling you to come inside. You're playing baseball. 2 outs. Bottom of the ninth. Bases loaded. Crowd's going crazy. Is that real?
well, that's not what I'm talking about.
Well, what are you talking about?
What's real is that they were going up against the U.S. military.
But let me ask you a question. Another question. Did you ever play Cowboys and
Yeah,
Indians?
I did all of that, but I never.
But was it real? Did you really think that it was real?
It was real in the sense of our imagination, but it didn't violate anything that was dangerous
Have you
to
seen
us.
E.T.?
What was
Did
that?
you see E.T.?
Yeah, I saw E.T., but
What did you think of that? What was that?
it's just Hollywood. All I'm
Let me
asking,
ask you a question. Did the bikes fly? Do you think the kids are going to jump off a building when the bike?
that's not what I'm asking.
What are you asking?
I'm asking is, did you consider the danger of them messing with the military? That's the question, not all this other stuff. Them messing with the military, it was dangerous. If they were to do that in real life, they'd be
You
dead.
go ahead, Henry. You want to
That's
ask
all
that
I'm
question?
asking. That's all I'm asking.
Well, the movie's not told from the perspective of the military, so you don't get their response. We definitely made a conscious choice to have it be the kids' cameras and not incorporate any other.
Well, I get that.
Oh, I know.
I get that.
But so in E.T., they violate that by taking E.T. out to the middle of the forest, and the movie doesn't have an epilogue where the kids are put in chains and taken away, because it's really not the point of the movie. We don't know what the military's response may be because we're with the kids' perspective, but what are they going to do to these kids. They may question them. In the reality, they may question them, but at the end of the day, it's the kids' movie, and that's the heart of it. And I think we decided to not distract from that.
I think also, all the sarcasm and the comedy, the reality is this. We wanted to give real stakes in the movie. We really don't want to treat kids like we really don't want to treat kids like they don't get it. I mean, the reality is there are big stakes in life. Kids get it. Kids understand it. They're in on it. And with today's world and the internet and everything and what they're seeing on television, it's like you got to give them a big feature film. You can't go in and see a big movie like, Iron Man, for example, where people are getting crushed and dying, and no one's dying in this movie. No one's dying and no one's getting killed, and it's got a really positive message. And I think, in superhero movies, everyone's getting their butt kicked all over the place. And I think that in this case, it's this good old-fashioned fun, is how I would say it, I was just being silly earlier, but the truth is, it's like kids have this wild imagination, and you have to fill that void for them. They play these games with them when they're running around the house at 10 years old, and they're like, all right, we got this guy, and he's like, and so I think that what we're doing is we're just fulfilling that childhood fun, and giving an obstacle for these kids, so we can give a message, which is like, look, you can do anything, you can accomplish anything. It doesn't mean that we're really saying, look, go up against the United States government. But I think that I think they realize that Captain America is doing the right thing, even though he's taking down half a country, but he's doing it for the right reasons. I think that's really, all sarcasm set aside, I think that kids need obstacles or they get bored. They get bored and they get that there's nothing at stake here, so why am I watching this movie for an hour and a half? I'm bored. And the irony with kids is they are brutal. They are brutal on you with story. They'll call you out. They'll be like, I don't get it. I don't feel threat. So why do I have to watch these kids run around with a camera? It would literally be, there'd be nothing to watch, there'd be nothing to do, and they'll call you out. They're just too advanced, now, and especially with Transformers in the marketplace and things like that, where Dinobots are eating other Dinobots. We got to give them something to get inspired by,
David,